What if someone could impress everyone, but still miss the truth? What happens when power looks real, but isn't? And how do you tell the difference between what amazes people and what actually transforms lives? In a city filled with curiosity and spiritual hunger, there lived a man named Simon. He wasn't ordinary. He had influence. He had attention. People listened when he spoke. They watched when he acted. Because Simon had something that made people stop and stare, he practiced sorcery. Through his actions, he amazed the crowds. Not just for a moment, but consistently. People believed he carried great power. Some even called him the Great Power. Think about that. A title built on perception, on what people saw, on what they felt when they watched him perform. And for a long time, that was enough. Because people are often drawn to what impresses them, to what feels powerful, to what creates a sense of wonder. But then something changed. Philip arrived in the city, not with tricks, not with performance, but with a message that wasn't designed to impress but to transform. He spoke about something deeper, something real. And as he spoke, something began to shift. People started listening, not just casually, but with intention. They began to see the difference. Because what Philip brought wasn't about display, it was about truth. And truth has a different kind of impact. It doesn't just amaze, it changes. It doesn't just draw attention, it creates understanding. And as the people listened, many believed. They were baptized. Their lives began to move in a new direction. Even Simon watched. The same man who once held the attention of the entire city now stood among the crowd, observing, listening, witnessing something he had not experienced before. And eventually, he believed. At least, that's what it seemed. He was baptized. He stayed close to Philip. He followed, he watched the signs and wonders happening, and he was amazed. But here's where the story takes a deeper turn. Because amazement is not the same as transformation. Seeing something powerful is not the same as understanding it. And being near truth is not the same as being aligned with it. As time passed, two apostles came to the city, Peter and John. They came to support what was happening, to pray for the new believers, to strengthen the community. And as they prayed, something significant took place. People received a deeper experience of what they believed. Something that could not be performed, something that could not be imitated, something that came from a source beyond human control. Simon saw this, and immediately his perspective revealed itself. He approached the apostles with an offer. He wanted that power, not to serve, not to grow, but to possess, to control, to use. And he offered money in exchange. Think about that moment. After everything he had seen, after everything he had experienced, he still viewed power the same way he always had, as something to acquire, to own, to leverage. This revealed something important. External change does not always reflect internal transformation. Someone can be present, involved, even participating, and still carry the same mindset. Simon didn't misunderstand what was happening. He misinterpreted its purpose. He saw something real, but filtered it through an old perspective. And that led him to the wrong conclusion. Peter's response was direct, clear, uncompromising. He told Simon that this was not something that could be bought, not something that could be traded, not something that operated by human rules. He pointed out that Simon's heart was not aligned, that his thinking was still rooted in something that did not belong in this new path. This moment is powerful because it highlights the difference between appearance and authenticity. Simon looked like he had changed. He believed, he was baptized, he followed, but his internal perspective had not shifted. And that matters. Because real transformation is not about external actions alone. It is about internal alignment, the way we think, the way we perceive, the way we understand what we are engaging with. Simon's mistake was not curiosity, it was intention. He wanted power for the same reason he always had, to elevate himself, to regain influence, to hold control. But what he was encountering was not meant for that. It was meant to serve, to build, to bring something greater than individual recognition. Peter didn't reject Simon as a person. He challenged his mindset. He called him to something deeper, to rethink, to realign, to recognize that what he was approaching could not be handled the same way as before. And Simon's response? He asked for prayer. He recognized, at least in that moment, that something was not right, that he needed help, that he could not simply move forward as he was. This is where the story leaves us with a question. What does it mean to truly change? Is it about what we do, or about how we think? Is it about being involved, or about being transformed? Because it is possible to move into new environments while holding on to old perspectives, to adopt new behaviors without changing the foundation. And when that happens, the result is confusion, misalignment, misunderstanding. Simon's story is not just about a moment in time. It is a reflection of something deeper, a reminder that not everything that looks powerful is real, and not everything that is real looks impressive at first, because true power is not about control, it is about impact. It is not about attention, it is about transformation. And that transformation begins within. This story challenges us to examine our own motivations. Why do we pursue what we pursue? Is it for recognition, for influence, for control? Or is it for something deeper, something meaningful? Because intention shapes outcome. It determines how we engage, how we respond, how we grow. Simon wanted something real, but he approached it the wrong way, and that made all the difference. There is also a lesson here about discernment, the ability to recognize what is genuine, to see beyond surface-level impressions, to understand the difference between appearance and substance. This is not always easy, because impressive things capture attention, they create excitement, they feel powerful, but that does not mean they carry depth, and without depth there is no lasting impact. Philip brought something different, not flashy, not performative, but real. And that reality changed lives. The people didn't just watch, they responded, they believed, they moved in a new direction, and that is the difference. Real impact leads to change, not just reaction. Simon's story reminds us that proximity is not the same as transformation. Being close to something meaningful does not automatically change us. We have to engage with it, understand it, allow it to shift our perspective, otherwise we remain the same, just in a different setting. This applies in many areas of life. We can be surrounded by growth, by opportunity, by truth, and still not change. If we hold on to old ways of thinking, old motivations, old patterns, but when we allow those patterns to shift, something new begins. Clarity, alignment, purpose, and that is where real growth happens. Simon had a moment of recognition, a moment where he saw the gap, where he realized something needed to change. And that moment matters, because awareness is the first step. Without it, nothing moves. But with it, everything becomes possible. This story doesn't end with a clear resolution. We are not told what happens next, and that is intentional, because it leaves space for reflection, space for application, space to consider our own position. Where are we in this story? Are we chasing what looks powerful, or seeking what is real? Are we trying to control outcomes, or aligning with purpose? Are we impressed by what we see, or transformed by what we understand? These questions are not easy, but they are necessary, because they lead to clarity, to growth, to a deeper connection with what truly matters. Simon's story is not about failure, it is about exposure, about revealing something that needed to be addressed. And in that revelation, there is opportunity to change, to grow, to move forward differently. Because real transformation is always available, but it requires honesty, willingness, and a shift in perspective. Not just on the outside, but within. Thank you for watching this video. If this message made you reflect, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share this video with someone who is seeking something